Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 12 of Jacked Up Being Frank. I'm your host, Jack Ivanovich, and here with my co-host, Frank Aranio. We will discuss about Juan Soto getting the biggest contract of all time from the New York Mets. What swayed Soto's decision besides, of course, the big load of money he got for the Mets. The Yankees pivot after missing out on Soto with getting freed in Devin Williams. And what predicting their moves from besides that, what they can do to maybe they're linked to Cody Bellinger and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some superstar moves, of course, and Kyle Tucker moving from the Astros to the Cubs. We'll talk about that. And Frank Aranio's Red Sox hit a big time move and get in the race, and Garrett Crochet. Frank tells us more about the offseason for the Red Sox, of course, and we'll finish by talking about the great slate of football that happened today. And my first question is, did the Yankees get lucky for not inking Soto to a deal of $760 million?
I wouldn't say lucky, but it's there's different parts of it, Jack. Like I don't know. Like my feeling for the Yankees, they were better off not signing him. And it kind of sounds weird saying that. I think the Mets totally should have. I don't know if I want to say had to sign him, but I think for the Mets is a huge deal. It's a big deal to bring in a megastar like Juan Soto. I mean, we know the whole story with the Mets and all their struggles over the years and haven't won a World Series since '86, and more losing seasons than winning seasons. I mean, they've had a rough go, for most of the last 4 decades, and quite frankly, most of the franchise's existence. So, we know what the Mets situation is, and we know what the Yankees situation is, and all their success. I mean, they haven't been the dynasty type franchise that they were for such a long time, but they still largely, make the playoffs. They have a winning season every year. So 2 very different situations with franchises. So I think for the Mets, this was enormous to bring in Soto. This could be the franchise-changing move. I mean, the Mets did have a very good season last year, which was unexpected. Got off to the very slow start and then took off and wound up having a really good year going to Game 6 of the NLCS, and we're very competitive against the Dodgers. So I think the Mets really had to make this move. It was the move for them to make. I thought all along they get him. I mean, look, I'm wrong plenty on these type of things and sports predictions, but I really felt for a while, even when last season was still going on, that the Mets would get Juan Soto, particularly when the Mets started playing well and you saw towards the end of the season what they were doing. That made the Mets more attractive as a team and a franchise to go to. So once that unfolded, the Mets wound up really getting it going last year. I started to think that Juan Soto would wind up with the Mets. And I thought the Mets would offer him the most money. I think Steve Cohen is totally all in, like he's beyond all in if that's possible. And I thought he would do everything it would take to get Juan Soto because he knows how important it is for the Mets to make a move like that. Added bonus, you poach him from the Yankees. I know they're not in the same league. Mets in the National League, Yankees the American League, but they're big rivals. It's a big deal. The Mets taking a megastar from the Yankees. That is a big deal. From the Yankees' perspective, that hurts them. I think him going to the Mets, if he went to the Red Sox, it would have been worse for the Yankees because there are rivals in the same division. But again, like in a weird way, I think the Yankees were better off. I think it just frees them up. The way Hal Steinbrenner is now, he's not his father. George Steinbrenner would have signed Soto. Like if George was still alive, he was on the team, there's no way the Mets would have got him. He'd be back with the Yankees. Not only be back with the Yankees, Steinbrenner would be signing other guys too. But Hal Steinbrenner is not the same as his father. So I think because of that, it's good for the Yankees long term because it just frees up money for them to get what else they need for their roster.
Yeah,
Whereas with Cohen, I think Cohen spent this money on Soto, but he'll go spend whatever it takes to get whoever else he needs. So I think Steve Cohen is largely like George Steinbrenner was.
Yeah, I do think House Steinbrenner, I think he did a good enough. I mean, he gave him the money. He said, "Here's my 760." This is what he went over his comfort zone. That's what I feel like he did. And you know what? He couldn't match 765 plus a lot of incentives. So he went to the Mets. And look, you gotta have trust in your GM. If you don't get this guy, if you don't think you think there's a little bit too much money you're putting into a guy, you can go make some moves happen. And they pivoted right to Max Fried. So I feel like they are going to pivot well, which I said about the Mets about what they would have done if they didn't get Soto. I don't really see a pivot plan for them, but I saw a big time pivot plan for the Yankees of them going out getting Max Fried, getting Devin Williams, and also being linked to Cody Bellinger, also being linked to all these type of guys who could help to kind of bridge the gap between Soto and try to keep them to the same place they were already. Because this is a huge loss, of course, but I feel like they could pivot better than the Mets.
Well, I feel for the Mets like they didn't need a pivot plan because again, like I think the Mets were gonna get him. I just think Cohen was gonna do everything he can. I don't think Juan Soto or most players now, for that matter, which we've talked about in prior episodes, most players don't care about playing for the Yankees or playing for the marquee franchise in their particular sport. It's just not like that anymore, which I think is a shame. But it is what it is. I don't think Juan Soto cared about being a Yankee. I don't think that meant anything to him. I could be wrong. I can't read the guy's mind, but just from right after the World Series, I mean, it was right after Game 5. I mean, the Dodgers were still celebrating in the clubhouse at Yankee Stadium. Juan Soto's being interviewed, and he's talking about how he's open for business and he's on the free agent market for all 30 teams. So I don't think him going back to the Yankees really meant anything at all. So having said that, like I just think the Mets were gonna do what it took. Like I think Cohen was gonna do what it took, and I don't think they were thinking about a plan B. It was like we're gonna get this guy. We know that he's gonna take whoever offers them the most money. So the Mets made sure that they were gonna be that team. But there's still more for the Mets to do. So what do you think, Jack? Like in terms of the Mets' next moves, like are they going to bring back Pete Alonso? I think they need more starting pitching. So with Soto, yes, he makes them better for sure. But I think the Mets have more work to do if they're gonna catch up to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the team that everybody's chasing in baseball. The Dodgers are in the National League with the Mets. So what are the Mets do? What are the Mets going to do next? Because this can't be it.
Well, I think Juan Soto has said a lot. I think he even said in his press conference that, the team's great. He loves the future, but he also wants a bat in this lineup. So I think they're going to get him a bat.
Well, I don't think the team is great yet. I don't know if he used those specific words. I think the Mets are very good.
No, he says the future is great for them. And I think that's what he said. I think he said that, like,
it should be.
Yeah, it should be. And we could build a dynasty here. But I think he said, obviously, right now, it's a bat that needs to be put in this lineup right now because there's kind of a gap where you're playing guys that shouldn't be played against the Dodgers. But, when you're looking at the Dodgers, like you're playing these players and it's like, do you think they stand a chance against the Dodgers? No, but I think the first step.
Well, they stand a chance. I mean, they went to Game 6 of the NLCS against the Dodgers without Juan Soto. So they do, but they're not as good as the Dodgers. So the Mets are all in. So it can't just be for the Mets, well, they're very good. It's got to be, they got to put a team in the field that's just as good or better than anyone else. Now, I'm not expecting them to put a team that's better than the Dodgers because the Dodgers are just absolutely loaded. But the Mets should be able to put a team on the field that's pretty much the same level of talent as the Dodgers. So the Mets have more work to do if they're going to get to that level.
Well, I think the market right now is not that good. I mean, they screwed up. They're getting Juan Soto for $760 is crazy for the market. But I think that obviously they're going to look at Alonso. They're going to wait for his market to die down. They're going to go out and get Alonso. I don't see them not getting Alonso.
I think they should bring him back.
It's a perfect fit. I mean, it's the difference between bringing in Soto. Why you bring in Soto is because he has power that he can hit like the Coca-Cola corner, but he can also get doubles, he can get singles, he can hit. He can hit for contact, hit for power, hit the Coca-Cola corner. He can do stuff like that. And that's why you bring in that guy, which means that you can also deal with the guy who has 240 average with a big home run power.
Well, now there's less pressure on him because Juan Soto's on the team.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be that guy. Like he'll be the number 2 guy, and you'll have this dynamic duo, left side of the plate, right side of the plate. So,
and then obviously, like you have Lindor at the one, very steady. He's going to be the steady presence. He's going to get on base. He's going to in the field. He's ridiculous.
Well, a really dynamic trio. I mean, Lindor is a different player than both Alonso and Soto. But I meant like dynamic duo, the power duo
Yeah,
between Soto and Alonso. But Lindor hits for power too. I mean, he's just a dynamic, all around great player. MVP level player. I know Soto is as well. But yeah, I mean, the Mets bring back Alonso. I mean, with those three guys, I mean, my
and
goodness, I mean
Vientos,
that's dynamite.
and Vientos in like the 4.
Yeah, there's other guys too, but man, just those three guys. I mean, that's as good as it gets for a trio and a
Yeah, I think
lineup.
that when you mean by that, I feel like that's what you mean when you say putting the best team on the field. That is what it is. But I think the when if we bring back Alonso, if the Mets bring back Alonso, I think they're good with hitting everything. I think they could bring in a guy or whatever. But I think pitching is going to be the real necessarily need for David Stearns. The market for pitchers is really slowing down. I don't think David Stearns is a guy that wants to give out a big time pitcher deal for a long amount of years. He has never been that guy, and you see him not even being linked to Corbin Burns. You would think the Mets would be linked to Corbin Burns. It's not even linked because he isn't like those guys that keep with them many years. But I mean, I think the Mets need an ace. I think it's going to be in the trade market because right now the pitchers. I mean, you can sign a pitcher that can be a 4 pitcher, but Mets need an ace right now, and right now they're not linked to anybody in the free agent pool that is an ace. I mean, they're linked to freaking Griffin Cannon and Nick Favetta, but they're not aces. And then you look in the trade market, I think the trade market is better for them to link to people like Luis Castillo. Um,
I don't think he's the guy.
no, but I think
I mean,
no that
he's
type
an
of
addition, where he could help a rotation, but he's not an ace.
yeah. I
They
mean,
need better than him.
you're hoping for Kodai Senga to come back and be at least a 1 or 2. So I
Well, it's a
think
big X factor for the Mets. I mean, they really need him to
yeah.
come back and
Well, if he comes back and he's what you think he's gonna what everybody hopes he's gonna be, then Luis Castillo is an addition. But you don't think that right now. You obviously
yeah, I
don't.
don't think they could rely on Senga. I mean, look, he could come back real strong and be really good and be a number one, but I don't think you could bank on that. I think the Mets have to have an insurance policy for the top of the rotation. When a guy misses a whole year, basically, I think you can't just pencil him in and say, hey, he's going to be the number one. I think they gotta get someone who's gonna be that number one.
Well, I think the Padres are definitely looking for some people. Are definitely looking to move some of their pitchers. Um, I think they're looking to move some pieces. I mean, some pitchers that are available from different teams. So I think there's gonna be people that are available, like a Dylan Cease, that you can go out and get from the trade market of a team that really is trying to sell or get rid of some guys that they don't want because the Mets can take on the salary. That's the thing about the Mets is that they have over every team, in my opinion, is they can just take on that salary and they don't really care. So the pitching market, I think, is gonna have to be done in the trade because there's gonna be a lot of teams that want to get rid of their guys who have a bunch of money, and the Mets are gonna have to take on that money and they're gonna get good production because they need it right now. I think that's gonna be the reason why they become this next level of contenders is getting that pitcher, getting that ace. And then maybe banking on Senga to be a good 2 or 3. But if he becomes that 1, then great, you have 2 1s. So,
Well, there's also this Japanese pitcher, I forget his name, who's gonna
Roki
be
Sasaki.
on the market. So I don't are the Mets in on him?
Yeah, they're in on him, but everybody else is, and it's like you're just gonna have to you're just a prime away from the Dodgers. And does he? I mean, he's gonna go back to the Dodgers probably, and
Yeah, I
so
think they said that he wants to stay on the West Coast. I mean, that's the rumor. That
maybe
happens a lot of times with the
Soto
Japanese
and
players. They'd rather stay on the West Coast. It's closer to home for them. So, I
maybe
mean, it sounds like a guy that's going to stay on the West Coast.
maybe Cohen and Stern could probably try to prime away. I mean, I don't see it's like the way the Mets are building up. I don't see it as like a no hundred
It's tough to
percent.
say if he's worth, throwing a bunch of money. I've never seen a pitch. I don't
No, I don't think
know.
he's allowed to be. I don't think you can throw a lot of money at him. I don't think he's only allowed a certain amount of money because he's on a minor league deal, an
Uh,
international player. So you're gonna have to.
I don't think so. I think they could give him whatever. I think. But anyway, like he's another guy in the mix. I mean, the Mets have to bolster the rotation. I just don't think you could bank on Senga being the number one. Maybe he winds up being that. I mean, 2 years ago, he pitched pretty much like a number one. He had a really good year. But I think they need someone to put in that slot, to be the one, Senga be the two. I mean, they just need to really bolster that rotation because, again, it's about getting to the level of the Dodgers because the Dodgers just absolutely loaded. The world champions, Mets gave them a good fight. But the Dodgers clearly were the best team, and everybody's chasing them. So, the Mets have gotten themselves closer, but the Dodgers have made moves this offseason too. I mean, they had Blake Snell. So the Mets just, it's got to be about catching the Dodgers. And then within their own division, I mean, I think they're now ahead of the Braves. Braves will be good. And we'll see if they make any moves the rest of this offseason too. But then the Phillies have done nothing this offseason, basically. They've been quiet. So we'll see, they do something. But the Phillies won the division last year. So I don't, even where the Mets are at now, like I wouldn't say like, oh, they're a lock to win the NL East. I don't think they are. But I think they could put themselves in a spot where they're the clear favorite in the NL East if they go get that ace. And I think they should bring back Pete Alonso. If they didn't, I think they need to get another bat in there. They certainly, like you said, have the money to do it. So again, the Mets are in a good spot right now, but I think they need to do more here going into the season.
Yes, I do think pitching definitely need to talk about that. Need to get that's a need, 100% need. But I think also you need a hitter, man. I mean, look at the Dodgers and what they do. 1 to like 9. You don't have to be like that. You don't have to be 1 through.
They're just totally loaded.
But you also cannot be like a Soto Lindor reliant team. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, they need more. Again, like Soto makes them better, but
Soto,
they need
Lindor,
more.
and rely on the Vientos come up, but he should be kind of a role guy next to something like Alonso and Lindor and Soto, and then you can have a Vientos in there, and then you make him have less pressure on himself, and then he can grow into his own.
But I think Pete showed his worth in the playoffs and that huge home run against
and man,
the
it's a contract
Brewers.
year. Maybe it's different now that he has people in front of him or behind him. He has Vientos behind him. Now that he's a threat, now that people are actually scouting for him, like really big time, like this guy has big time power showed in the playoffs. I know I'll keep bringing him up, but like he's that guy that people are going to look for. So maybe having him as protection now, as everybody's looking towards him as a big time power guy, gives him a little more wiggle room to hit some more home runs for the Mets this season, do better stuff because he's on this contract.
With Soto there, it takes some pressure off of him.
Yeah.
I think it takes some pressure off of Lindor too. So I'd bring back Pete. I mean, again, they got the money. I mean, money's not a thing for Steve Cohen. So, and again, look, Pete's a homegrown guy. He's been very good for them. I know he had a down year last year. The fans were really on him. He goes and hits that home run against Milwaukee. I mean, it was a huge home run. It's one of the biggest home runs in the history of the franchise. And then he hit a big home run against the Phillies, too, in that series. So he came up big and had a good postseason. He showed what he could do. He could show what he could do in the biggest moments. And I think the Mets got to bring Pete Alonso back. I mean, eventually he'll be a DH, but he can still play first base for now. So I think it'd be smart for the Mets to bring him back.
Yeah, I think.
And this stuff about him not being a good clubhouse guy, like there's been rumors of that. Like really? I don't buy that.
No,
we don't know for sure, but Pete's a Met.
Greatest guy ever.
What's that?
That's a good guy. Yeah, Pete Alonso, great guy.
He seems like it. I don't.
Yeah, UFC just showing out.
Rumors.
He looks like such a good guy. By UFC just saying what's up. But what's bad clubhouse? This team is so much synergy last year. You saw that. There's not a bad fed in the locker room. Maybe it's not like everybody's perfect.
No, it doesn't seem to make any sense because look at what they did last year after a slow start, a bad start the first 2 months. But look at the season they had. I mean, again, I think you bring Pete back. He's a Met, homegrown. He's done a lot with them.
Sulking because he played bad. I mean, you're obviously going to sulk because you played bad. It's not like against anybody else. He hit that home run, and I think.
Well, he really seems to be like he seems like a guy that he really cares, and I think he loves being a Met. I think it means something. Look, I mean, I think it means something to have that homegrown guy who's a power guy, has done a lot for the franchise. I'd bring him back. I'd give him the money. I mean, look, you have negotiation, and I'm
Business.
not gonna like throw everything at him. I would have like Soto's like, okay, do we got to do to sign him? I wouldn't say with Pete that's the case, but I think the Mets should be able to offer him a good deal, the best deal that anyone's going to give him, and bring him back.
This guy's a Mets legend. Like you should. There's no. It's not like another first baseman. You're power rating for. No, this guy's a Mets legend. Like I know it's like legend, but is he going to produce? Yes, he does produce at a high level. I mean, he's not just a normal power hitter. I mean, that hit against the Phillies was down, and he hit that. He used his power to get that out. Not a lot of players can do that. So I think just having that skill in that lineup is invaluable for a team. So
yeah. So the Mets, look, they're in good shape.
I just think Alonso and Ace, and I think they're good. I mean, would it? I mean, the
It'll
pitching
just be
market's crazy that I wouldn't want to bring back Manaya. I don't know, because I don't want to get. I don't think David Stearns has got to give him a 5-year deal. I don't even think it's smart pitching deals that are long don't really end up well. But I don't know. I right now I'd be surprised if Sean Manaea's a Met opening day.
yeah. He seems like a guy that
He's a good guy. I just
they're
feel
going
like
to let go. That's
doesn't fit David Stearns' plan, and it's like David Stearns is not a guy to give you like a 6-year deal when you're 32. Like that's not going to happen with David Stearns as a pitcher.
yeah, and I think that's smart with a guy like
And
Manaea. Like
also with
he's
the
he's
pitching
pretty
market.
good, but he's up and down. Had a good year last year, so I think with him, it's
Yeah,
you know
and you know
you
what?
have a limit to the years.
And you know what? He'll get a 6-year deal from a team, and it'll probably be great for them. And this guy is very good. I just think that the Mets are not a team that wants to give out the 6-year deal, especially with David Stearns the head. So yeah, that's why I say trade market's the biggest thing. Yes, I would like to bring him back, but I just don't feel like a 6-year deal is something the Mets would want to give out. So trade market's big for them. They got to get active in there. I mean, we'll see. Maybe the Astros are selling. Maybe Framer Valdez is there. I mean, that's a name that they haven't been linked to, but I've just heard it around. And that's something they could get. I mean, there's a lot of guys that David Stearns could be calling right now and asking for a trade instead of going out in free agency because Mets being linked to Nick Pivetta is not good. And as no shade to him, but he's just not the pitcher the Mets need right now.
Yeah, he's a bottom of the rotation guy. I mean, he's a guy you fill out the rotation with. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't move the needle that much. He's a guy's, 4 or 5 in your rotation. Decent pitcher. He's
If
up
you have
very up and
injuries,
down.
he
He
moves
could be
up.
really good, and he could really struggle. He's a 4 or 5. He's a bottom rotation guy.
I'm just really I don't think they'll be making big moves pitching wise. That's why I'm scared they won't make big moves pitching wise because they have this like I get it. You have a trust in your pitching development. It's a very good pitching development. Jeremy Hefter does a great job. It's a great job, but sometimes you need an ace. And I don't feel like David Stearns is that guy to go out and get an 8. But I think it's time. I think Steve Cohen's going to try to win him over. Going to try to be like, hey, you're gonna have to change your kind of philosophy right now because this is a championship winning team. It's a team that can win the World Series, team competing with the Dodgers. Look at what the Dodgers have, and kind of try to compare it to you. And they have those pitchers, Yamamoto. They have those pitchers that the Mets don't really have. So maybe, but right now I'm
Yeah, I mean,
really
they have Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell. I mean, just right there. I mean, the Mets have to bolster their rotation because
yeah
right now they're not even close to that Dodgers rotation.
yeah. I think it's gonna be patience with them. I think it's obviously you just sign a guy to like an $800 million deal. It's gonna be patience, but you're gonna have to find those pitchers sooner or later because they're gonna be off the board if a team really wants it. Because aces are some every team wants. So you know, the Mets, need to find one sooner or later. And and the free agency market doesn't look good for them, and the market in general, which they kind of mess with themselves, which is fine, with giving Soto that much money, which and also free to the Yankees kind of mess with the market. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't see the Mariners even moving Luis Castillo at this point. If we want to go back to that, it's a good deal that he's on and he can give decent production. I just don't see the Mariners giving up him. So some teams is just like I don't see them giving up their pitchers, but the
Well,
Mets
the
are trying to.
Mariners desperately need offense, so they need to make a deal where they trade a starting pitcher and get some offense. They've been linked to the Red Sox. I think it makes total sense for those two teams to make a trade. The Mariners need hitting, they need power, and then the Red Sox need top of the line starting pitchers. So those two teams to me got to work out a deal. I really hope they do. I mean, as a Red Sox fan, um, I'm hoping for a deal there, a smart deal. So both sides are going to have to, figure out what they're willing to give up, and they got to come to a deal. Come to one that works for both sides. But I just think that those two teams are ideal trade partners. Thought that going back in last year, trade deadline, there were rumblings about Red Sox and Mariners, so it really would make sense for both teams to work out a deal so they get what they both desperately need. Because again, the Mariners desperately need offense and some punch in the lineup, and the Red Sox desperately need rotation help. I still think at the top of rotation, Crochet, good deal, makes sense. He's young. He had one really good season last year. He projects to be really good going forward. Projects to be an ace. Certainly was that for the White Sox, but let's see if he can keep doing it. It makes sense to get him, but I think the Red Sox, they need more. I don't think it's just Crochet. I'd like to see him sign Corbin Burns. If they don't
Yeah,
sign him, I don't think they're gonna. But making a deal with the Mariners, getting one of their guys. I mean, I'd love to get George Kirby, but I don't think the Mariners will give him up, and
you're
I think
really.
they'll be asking for a lot for him. But I'm willing to
Yeah.
trade Tristan Casas. Like I would give him up for George Kirby. I would not give him up for Luis Castillo. But again, I think that the Red Sox need to do more. Crochet was a good move, but they need more at the top of the rotation, not just the middle of the rotation or bottom of the rotation guy. I think they need another guy at the top of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox really have been linked to everyone. They just haven't been able to pull off any deals besides the Crochet one, which is a very good deal. They had to part ways from prospects, but I feel like this guy is gonna be very good for them as top of the line starter.
I mean, he should. It makes sense, but I don't think he's some guy like. I don't think there's like, oh yeah, he's definitely gonna be the guy. We'll see. I mean, I don't want to minimize because he pitched for the White Sox, but actually the last 12 starts last year after the All-Star break, he was an All-Star last year. After the All-Star break, 12 starts, he had an over 5 ERA. And it was a game he pitched against the Red Sox, got crushed at Fenway Park. I don't want to make too big a deal of it, but he didn't finish the season strong. He had said before the trade deadline he didn't want to be traded to a team that didn't sign him long term, and he wouldn't pitch in the postseason for a team that didn't sign him long term. So I'm a little weary of that. I don't like that sort of mindset. Again, guy has the arm talent. Strikes out a lot of guys, doesn't walk a lot of guys. He has what it takes to be an ace, but he's got to prove that he can do it, over the course of time and, build on what he did last year. So again, good move for the Red Sox, but I wouldn't say it's like, they got this absolute no doubt about it guy. I think they got a guy should be really good, but I think there are some reservations with him. And I also think that they need to do more. It's not enough to just get Crochet. I think they need a Corbin Burns, or I think they need, which again, I don't think they're signing Burns. They should. I don't think they will. But I think swinging a deal with the Mariners would make sense for them.
Yeah, but should we go on the topic of talking about Kyle Tucker to the Cubs? The Astros, a team that is going to compete, kind of offloaded their superstar to the Cubs, and the Cubs gave up some prospects. But at the end of the day, do you think the Cubs, those 1 year rentals, Do you think those should be like? How would you deal with them as a GM? Those 1 year rentals right now with the Soto move and everything, like getting Kyle Tucker for a year, he's going to test free agency, and a team like the Mets will go give him a bunch of money, and you have to match that. How much would you want to get a rental right now with the way
Well, it
Soto?
seems to make sense for the Cubs because they're trying to contend. Um, they're in the NL Central. The Brewers, it seems like every year they just find a way to put together a roster that wins that division or makes the playoffs. But it's a pretty weak division, so it's winnable. So I think the Cubs have to go for it. I mean, you bring in Kyle Tucker, he obviously makes your lineup better. He's a winner. He's a champion. Um, Very good bat from the left side. So I mean, it makes sense for them. I mean, look, he's going to be a free agent. Okay, you might lose him, but the Cubs are trying to add to their team to try to go for the NL Central, a very winnable division. So they were on the cusp last year. Obviously they fell short of the playoffs, but the Cubs are close enough where if they add a few pieces, they added Tucker here, they could be right in the mix in the NL Central.
See a team that's looking to win now in 2025.
Yeah, they
Uh,
should be.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
the Cubs have plenty of money. I mean, they could re-sign Kyle Tucker. I mean, we'll see what the free agent market looks like next offseason, but they could be in the mix for him, and let's see how they do this year. I think for them, it makes sense. They bolster a lineup with an impact guy, and, again, they're in the mix, and, being the division they're in, they should be right in contention to win the National League Central this year.
so I want to switch gears to the other team that in the Wanso sweepstakes that lost it. I mean, they had him on their team, the New York Yankees, where they pivot from Wanso and they go out and get a guy Max Fried. What did you feel about that deal? Like, right as it happened, do you feel like it was like an overpay or something that they they panic move? What did you feel about that?
There's some people that are saying that, but Max Fried to the Yankees was in the works before Juan Soto signed. So I don't think it called a reactive move because they were already negotiating with him and already pursuing him heavily. So I don't think it was that. Um, I say it's a good move. I get people having reservations, a long deal. Fried has had injury issues in his career, but when he's healthy, he is really good. He's an ace. He's left-handed. Being left-handed in Yankee Stadium is important with the short porch in right field. So it seems to me that it makes sense for the Yankees. Look, is there risk involved? Yeah, there's definitely risk in this deal. But, again, like the Yankees have money to spend. And, I think sometimes you got to overpay or, sometimes you make a deal that the last few years, it's
You wouldn't make or somebody wouldn't make, somebody would laugh at even. But like, I do
well,
think
I mean,
that
like the last few years, it'll the last few years of the contract, it won't be good, like that kind of deal, and that certainly could be the case with this. But if you get 4 or 5 really good years out of Max Fried, then I think it's totally worth making this move. I mean, look at when the Yankees signed Garrett Cole. They signed for 9 years, and it's totally worth it. It's worth it already. I mean, it's 5 years in, and he's back with them after he had the opt out in his contract, but he is back with the Yankees. The Yankees like to get a few more good years out of him, but he's had pretty much 5 really good years. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So that deal is totally worked out for the Yankees. So I think the Yankees are looking for similar here out of Fried. I don't think they're expecting to get 8 great years. But if they get 5 or more, I think it's worth it. So I think they're banking on that. Like give us, 5 really good years.
yeah, I think, and Max Fried's not a guy that like you would panic move on. This is a guy that's a very good pitcher and was a top of the line starter, and he's gonna be a guy that fits this Yankees rotation really well. I think they slot him in really well. I think with Garrett Cole and then you have Fried, and you have some of the guys like a Luis Gill who can come back and have a good good comeback after last year, and where he played very well and kind of didn't play well in the last of the season. But they have a kind of good rotation, which that can be the way they can win ball games. Is why they have Max Fried, they have Garrett Cole, they have Louis Gill, and they have a very heavy pitching group, and they even went out and got Devin Williams, which was a segue that I wanted to do after, but I think it's a good segue now. I mean, they went out and got Devin Williams to bolster up that
Yeah,
with
so
them
they've
getting.
added to the bullpen. They got a good closer.
Yeah, well, they lose Clay Holmes to the Mets, but I think they get better getting a Devin Williams. I
Yeah, the
mean,
Yankees have made two very good moves here.
Pete Alonso laughs at Devin Williams, but Pete Alonso laughs at him, but
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean, it's a thing where you can have a very good pitching group. I mean, you have Luke Weaver who played well in the playoffs. You have Devin Williams, and then there's top of the line stars. You have Garrett Cole, Louis Gill, and Max Fried. So you're looking at a team and then you're linked to some guys, and I think, and you have, of course, Aaron Judge, as bad as he played in the
They got to
playoffs.
bolster their lineup now. I mean, you lose Juan
Yeah,
Soto. You're not going to replace him, but you got to bolster your lineup. So that's what the Yankees need to do now. But I like these two moves from. I like Fried. I like Devin Williams. Yes, there's risk involved with the Fried contract, but I think it's worth it. The Yankees have the money. I gave him 8 years, but sometimes you got to make deals like that. And the Yankees could afford it. The Mets could afford it. The Red Sox, the Dodgers, these big market teams, they could afford contracts like that. I mean, you still want to be smart with it. You don't want to just hand out contracts to everyone, but I think it makes sense for the Yankees.
yeah, I think it makes sense for them, especially they're going to lose a lot of guys. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of a lot of they lost Nestor Cortez in the trade, so they wanted to get rid
Yeah, I
of.
mean, they have Rodon too, so we'll see.
Yeah, they also have Rodon. So this is a unit that I feel like I can see the vision of what Brian Cash was trying to put together with his team of we're gonna win this ball game by pitching, which they can get a Cody Bellinger and it could be whatever. I mean, it could be like okay, they can win games anyways, but I feel like they still have a move to make, definitely. But they have a very good pitching. They have very good
Yeah, they got to
pitching
get a big bat now. I mean, you lost Juan Soto, so
and a
you
big
got a
bat.
huge hole
Don't
to
touch
fill.
that big
So,
bat.
I mean, get a couple bats.
Yeah,
Good, good
contact.
productive.
I think. I mean, they have a guy in Aaron Judge who can also hit the heck out of the ball. So I don't, I, I don't like the fit with him and Alonso. I don't know. Like, I don't think the Yankees
Well, I think
need.
it'd make more sense for the Yankees to get a left-handed bat.
Yeah, like maybe a Bregman. I mean, maybe a
Well,
Cody
Bregman's
Bellinger.
right-handed, but I mean, Bregman's been on the decline, but he's still a very good player. Plays great defense.
Yeah, I mean they fell on Christian Walker. I don't know if he's lefty or righty, but they fell on him. He was a guy that they could have because Max Fried induced a lot of ground balls, so you have to need to, and they also need to, of course, bats, but they also need a lot of stuff. They also need to help with that fielding, of course, which kind of screwed them over in the World Series. So, in the biggest game of their season, so they need to kind of patch that up right now, especially bringing in a Max Fried guy who will be your second ace, in my opinion, coming in there and inducing a lot of ground balls. So you can't Jash him at third. I mean, there's a lot
And
of
defense is important. It is. And there's
yes,
some people that really minimize it, which I don't like that mentality or philosophy. Like, I do think defense is important. Like you said, I mean, their defense really let them down in game 5 of the World Series, but that was a dropped fly ball. I mean, just routine. Judge dropped it. It was Volpe bouncing the ball at third base, and it was Cole not covering first. So, I mean, it was the defense that let him down, but it wasn't.
it was like
It was a dropped fly ball. It was a throw that was bounced. Yankees have a shortstop, like the shortstop's not changing, and then the play at first base that was Cole not covering. So defense is important, but much more of a priority is them getting a big bat, preferably from the left-hand side. It's not going to replace Soto because you're not going to get a guy as good as him. But the Yankees need to add to their lineup. They've done well here with the pitching. The Yankees are the favorites in the AL East right now.
I'm gonna walk through that right now. I'm gonna walk through it, but you know they have. I mean, Christian Walker. I'm looking at him right now. He's a guy who can hit 26 homers. I mean, it's 250, 251. I mean, he brings good defense. So I think that's a spark in the lineup they could use. Or even a team to can use. I mean, the Mets could use it if they miss out on Alonso. So who knows? I mean, a lot of teams should use that type of guy. So there's gonna be a first baseman in the market for them. So we'll just see what they can go out and get hitting wise right now. Because I think Brian Cashman shot.
Well, I even said that they're better of a lefty, but I mean, Teoscar Hernandez is on the market. Santander is on the market. Like, those guys are in play. So, I mean, they need to add power. They need to add offense. They do that, then they'll be in really good shape. I mean, right now they're the favorite in the American League. The American League stinks. It still stinks. So in terms of in their league, I mean, look, Cleveland had a good year last year. Detroit, we'll see what they do, and Kansas City, those up and coming teams. We'll see if the Rangers bounce back. The Mariners are always on the cusp, but they had a disappointing year last year. Again, they need to get offense, a lot of pitching, but they need offense. The Astros, I mean, they're unloading guys, so we don't know exactly what they're going to be. But, the Yankees are still the favorite in the American League, even without Juan Soto. But they need to get better. I mean, because, look, it's about winning the World Series. Last year they got through a weak American League. Look, they won the pennant, but, they were no match for the Dodgers in the World Series. I know Yankees were 1 out away from winning game 1, but, the Dodgers were clearly the best team there. And I think the 5 best teams in baseball, I think 5, Mets, Phillies, Padres, Dodgers, and I don't know if you want to say, let's say the top 4 teams in baseball: Mets, Phillies, Dodgers, Padres. I mean, I put those 4 teams. I don't know. I mean, I guess people could argue the Yankees.
But the Yankees are like a work in progress right now.
I'm just thinking this through with the team. I have to break down all the rosters, but like the Padres are very good. The Dodgers are the best team. I put the Mets ahead of the Yankees. The Phillies. I mean, the Phillies are still up there. So point being is, like, the Yankees, the goal is to win the World Series, just like the other teams I mentioned. The goal is to win the World Series. So for the Yankees, it's not just getting through what's a weak American League. They need to stack up with the top teams in the National League. So I think they have to do more in order to do that. Again, I put the Mets ahead of the Yankees. With Soto switching from the Yankees to the Mets, give the Mets the upper hand. And then the Dodgers are clearly the best team in baseball. So the Yankees have more to do if they're gonna really particularly get to the level of the Dodgers. They need to really bolster the lineup.
So yeah, the Yankees need some hitting. They definitely need some hitting. But let's move to the NFL, where we had some good. I mean, this slate was really good at the tail end of it. It was a very good slate. You had
Maybe people could slow down with crowning the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, maybe they could slow down. I was going to say they had a good slate of Detroit Lions versus Bills. Eagles defeat the Steelers. The Broncos and Colts were a pretty good game, I guess. And they weren't a good game. They were a good game coming into it. Buccaneers Chargers were a good game going into it, I guess.
Hold on, before you go through the games, because I want to comment on the Lions. I've been ready for this.
Yeah.
People were crowning them like they're the best team in the NFL. They're going to be so tough to beat in the NFC. I mean, they got just totally exposed yesterday on defense. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. The Bills. Josh Allen, 23-34, 362, 122.4 QBR. They
picks.
ran for 197 yards. I mean, total. I'm trying to look for the total here. I mean, what is that total yards? I mean, it's. Hold on here.
Ty Johnson and James Cook went. James Cook 133, Ty Johnson 123.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills were totally dominant in that game offensively. I'm trying to look at the total number offensive yards. Anyway, 362 passing, 197. You just do the math. So that's 555 yards for the game. Scored 48 points. I know the
Yeah,
Lions scored
5.9.
42, but they scored some in garbage time. Like I've said on the show the last couple of weeks, I've been saying the Packers are going to pick off the Lions if it matches up that way. I like the Packers. Jordan Love, what they showed last year, what they're doing this year. Packers were dominant last night against the Seahawks. Packers are right there with the Lions Thursday Night Football last week. Came right down the wire, 34-31 in Detroit. Detroit struggled with Chicago Thanksgiving Day. I think there's warning signs with Detroit. And, I think a lot of people were just ready to crown them and they're the best team. No, they're not the best team. I'm not saying they can't recover from this, but I think they've been exposed. I mean, you play defense like this at home. I know how good the Bills are offensively, but to me, there's a major red flag. It just signals a team for me that come playoff time, if you're playing defense like this, you're gonna get beat. Because the playoffs come, you get away with a little bit more. They don't call the game exactly the same. They kind of let more things go into playoffs. It becomes more physical, becomes more about defense. I tell you, I see warning signs of the Lions, and there's just even more yesterday. So you can't
And the
count them out,
pressure,
but
they're still
I'm
gonna have.
not picking them. I'm not on board with them like a lot of people have been. And now maybe people are backing off. But they were exposed yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that is gonna come in with a bunch of expectations, even if they lost the
Well, there's
Bills
going
in
to be a
week
lot of pressure on them too. I mean, they've never won, never been to the Super Bowl. Lots of pressure. I look at them as a team. I've been thinking about them in this way the whole year. I really have. I'm like, the pressure of it, and the Packers have been that team my radar. Like they're in the division. I really like Jordan Love. I really like what they've done, the progress they've made. But just even more validation for my take yesterday, where the lines have been exposed, and they'll be the I guess they'll be the NFC favorite still.
yeah.
Although maybe you say Philadelphia now, them going beat the Steelers yesterday. But, give 48 points at home like that. You have to give up 31 the week before against the Packers. I mean, can't play defense like that and get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is a team that is giving up a lot of points because of the injuries, man. The injuries to keep it up, but I don't think that's an excuse. They need to really, because this is a
I
team
never
that's
even look at injuries. I know I know they're not all equal, but teams have injuries. It's part of it. It's just not, it was not a good day for them yesterday. I think
this
it's
is
a
a
major
team.
red flag.
This
And
is
on
a
the
team.
flip side, like Buffalo put up all those points, very impressive. I still don't believe in them. They're another team. I think come playoffs, they're like a fantasy football team. They put up all these numbers and yards and points. They
Josh
gave up
Allen
42
picks
points
us.
yesterday, and I know some of it was in garbage time, but they're another team. I just think come January, come playoff time, they're not built for January.
So
So
these are so
I'm
this.
still gonna knock on the Bills. I still don't believe in them, even with that performance yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think the Bills have that. Like, I know, like when stuff comes to playoffs, when it comes to those big moments, you need that alpha wide receiver one. You need that guy. You need that. OBJ back of the Giants, I guess, is the first thing to come up. But you need a Stephon Diggs if you're the Bills. You need a Stephon Diggs. You need a a Tyreek Hill, for example. You need an Amon Ra, I guess. They don't have that. They
Yeah, but I
have.
can look at more at the Bills. Like, are they going to get it done defensively in the playoffs? I think you get in a playoff game, smash mouth football. It becomes more of that, despite the way the NFL's gone now, with trying to make it less physical. It's still a physical sport, very physical. But playoff time, it's again the refs I think let more things go, let them play, becomes more physical. I don't think it's conducive for a team like the Bills. I think if they go head to head with Kansas City, I think they get beat by Kansas City. I think they lose to Kansas City in Buffalo or Kansas City, particularly in Kansas City. And I think if they face the Steelers, I know the Steelers lost yesterday, but the Steelers, I just think they would match up well with Buffalo and just win a hard nosed playoff football game against them. I can even see
Yeah,
the Ravens, besting him in the playoffs. I still don't believe in the Bills. I think they're like a fantasy football team. Josh Allen's tremendous, but I don't think they're a team that once again will get it done in the playoffs. I think once again they're going to fall short.
Yeah, I think my whole take stands on they don't have that wide receiver one. That is my whole take.
Well, add that too. I mean, that's a factor too. I just look at more just
Yeah,
defensively and the way they play, and great for the regular season, but I don't think what they do works in the postseason. And I think that is shown in the past, and I think it's going to show up again this postseason.
I also think like as I said, another thing to show up is that they miss a Stephon Diggs. They miss that type of guy. Not like diva and everything and being mad at teammates, but they miss a wide receiver one. They miss that guy. That Josh Allen knows 100% my go to, but right now it's a lot of slot receiver. Shakir has been having a good to great season, but not a lot you can do with a slot receiver. There's a bunch of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s in this team that when it comes down to the playoffs, you need that wide receiver one. You need that number one weapon, and the Bills don't have that. And even you look at the Chiefs with their wide receivers even being not that good anymore, they have that Travis Kelce. He's a number one weapon when it comes down to playoff time. You know who Mahomes is going to go to. For the Bills, I don't see that guy.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have Mahomes. I mean, as good as Josh Allen is, he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I guess so.
You put them head to head in the playoffs, and for the Bills, it's all about getting to win a Super Bowl now, nothing less. So, are they going to be able to go up against Kansas City and beat them? I don't see it happening. But then I think there's other teams that could pick them off too. Like I said, the Steelers, the Ravens. I think they'll be there for the taking.
Yeah, definitely. I think they'll be there for the taking. But another game, the Eagles. Man, I think the Eagles are a very good football team. And I think I've changed my kind of thought on them earlier this season. I I didn't believe in them. But I think they have a structure that can win a lot and win a lot in the playoffs. I don't see them doing a lot in the playoffs still, but I'm getting close to the feeling they can make that extra step. They can make that extra round. But for now, I'm really not feeling well with the playoff chances. But I think they're a very good team. I mean, they have a guy in AJ Brown. They have Jalen Hurts who's run the football as well as anybody. Devontae Smith is a wide receiver too. Saquon Barkley's playing an MVP type level. They have that offensive line. So they have that guy at wide receiver. They have two guys who are very good. And they have Saquon, who's an MVP type candidate. So I don't see them being an easy out like they were a lot of times. They're gonna be a tough out. This is a different Eagles team, and this is a team that's ready. I don't see them winning a lot of playoffs, but I feel like this is a team that's ready to take on a big time challenge. And we'll be the Lions, we'll be the Bills. Who knows? We'll be.
Yeah, I think at this point you have to say the Eagles are for real. I mean, they're 12-2. They took it to Pittsburgh yesterday. And they're in the mix for the number one seed. I mean, the Lions have the tiebreaker. They're both 12-2, but the Lions have the number one spot right now. But the Eagles play at Washington, and then they host Dallas, and they host the Giants. So
there we go.
That's the Eagles play the three teams in their division. I mean, they got a very good chance of running the table. I mean, the Washington game will be somewhat challenging, but then the last two games should be layups.
Come on.
I mean, the Eagles are looking at 15-2. I mean, very realistic chance they go 15-2. And then the Lions, they go to Chicago. I mean, look, Chicago took them to the wire on Thanksgiving. They go to San Francisco and they host Minnesota. So I mean, I would say that the Lions' schedule is tougher, although it's not a tough schedule. So like they're going to Chicago, they're going to San Francisco. I mean, they should win those games. They host Minnesota, so we'll see what the playoff race is, the last week. But there's a chance for the Eagles to get the number one seed, and that would be huge if they could get the one seed, get a bye, home field throughout the NFC playoffs. I mean, I think it's really big, that race for the number one seed.
And I also think
I kind of think the Eagles are going to get it because I kind of think the Lions are losing another game. I could see the Lions losing one of those three games, and I think the Eagles are going to run the table. Like the Washington game's the toughest game, but then they should win those other two. And I think they'll be going for it. Like you have to go for the number one seed. You have to get a bye, try to get the bye, and try to get home field throughout the NFC playoffs.
I think they run a smash mouth physical football. They could run that where it works very well in the playoff setting, as you said. Which if they run that good, very good, which they can get Saquon Barkley going, first big playoff run of his career. I know beat the Vikings and lose to the Eagles by 1,000 points. I understand that, but right now there's a team that he's gonna be a big part of this type of run, and it's the first time you can say Saquon Barkley on a big time run, which the Eagles will be on, at best case scenario. And this is a smash mouth physical team that has good blockers up front that can also pass. You have Jalen Hurts and can also run with Jalen Hurts and has a good time read option. Which if you need to pass in a smash mouth physical way, if you need to pass, then you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, so you have a little bit of everything. So this is a team that's ready for battle, and when I mean they're ready for battle, I mean they're ready to run the football, and they're ready to run the football at a high level against a
And I think
defense.
that's conducive to playoff football. I mean, if you're playing outdoors and cold weather, maybe sloppy track, I think it's conducive to the playoff football. And I mean, it's not played like old school football, but it goes more that way in the playoffs even still. So I think I think that is an advantage for them, and obviously having a back like
Having
Barkley
Saquon
in the year
Barkley
that
out.
he's having. And I was talking about the number one seed. Like I think it's more important. I think it's important for both teams, but I think it's more important for Detroit to get it than Philly.
Well,
Because if
Detroit
Philly
just
gets it
lost.
and Detroit has to go to Philly, I don't think Detroit's winning in Philly.
You know,
Like I think Philly has more of a chance of winning in Detroit than Detroit has to win in Philly. Would you agree with that, or you disagree with that?
I agree with that. But did you know David Montgomery's out for the season for the Detroit Lions when they're running backs? So they're really
Yeah,
relying
I mean,
on Jameer. Jameer Gibbs is not a guy that's going to be downhill type runner. He's a very electric, great runner. I think he'd be future one of the best running backs we see in the league. But and he already is right now. But they need that guy who can run downhill, and they don't have that anymore in David Montgomery. So we'll see what they do in the playoffs. I mean, they're already losing a ton of players.
yeah, I mean, again, injuries do matter. They definitely do. You can't use them as an excuse. I mean, it's football. Injuries pile up, but again, injuries don't affect teams equally. Some teams have those devastating injuries that really hurt their chances or derail their chances. I mean, look, I'm not counting the Lions out, but it's going in the wrong direction. They got exposed yesterday. So I'm definitely not picking them out of the NFC. I've been saying it for a while now. But look, the Eagles, I mean, give them a lot of credit. I mean, really nobody gave them a chance this year. Everybody's writing them off. A lot of people saying Sirianni should be fired. And look, it was ugly last year at the end of that year. I mean, that was a collapse. And you know what? If he lost his job, that would have been on him. Like you could have understood firing him after that. But Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, stuck with them to his credit. I still don't love some of Sirianni's antics. Like I think he's got to grow up a little bit, especially as a head coach and a leader. But look, he's clearly a good football coach. There's clearly strengths there. He's a smart guy.
And clearly buy-in. I
What's
think
that?
he's been a coach for a long time in this team, so I feel like there's clearly buy-in. Like, first thing a coach
Yeah, look, I mean, he's obviously got strengths and he's overall a good coach. I still think he has something to prove. He seems like he's on a mission. Again, I think some of his antics, I think he'd be better off just kind of keep it a little more low key. But that's his personality. I'll give him that. He's a fiery guy. But hey, I mean, credit to him, credit to this Eagles team. Again, most people were writing them off this season, and here they are, 12-2, with a decent chance of being the number one seed in the NFC.
Yeah. So the Eagles are a team that is looking to be a team in the NFC. But let's talk about the Buccaneers, the team in the NFC South, 8-6.
They're making their run again.
They're making their run, and I think they're going to be a team in the wild card that is going to give somebody an issue. They have Mike Evans back. I don't know what's happening with Chris Godwin. I think he's out for the whole entire season. But they have right there. They have Bucky Irving. They have Rashad White. So they have two. They have their downhill runner Rashad White, and they have their electric runner in Bucky Irving. So I think they have that running game to go well in the playoffs, which can be a tough out for them. And they also have, the old reliable Mike Evans, who's amazing and has been amazing for the Buccaneers. So, and they have Baker Mayfield, who's been great, always been great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
for
Baker just
Bucks,
keeps proving what he could do. I mean, he is a legit good NFL quarterback with experience, playoff experience, has won in the playoffs. So here are the Bucks. I mean, they had a struggle this year. I mean, they were they 4-6 or they 5-6? I forget. Let's look. Yeah, they were 4-6. They've won 4 in a row. And this winning streak kicked off with their win against the Giants. So they beat the Giants, Carolina.
man, is that like everybody's charity right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, that helps them. They took care of business though. They
Yeah,
and they had a
yeah.
close call against Carolina, but they beat them at the end. Then they
And they beat it.
beat
They
the
beat
Raiders, and then look, a great
tough
win
Chargers.
yesterday. I mean, just blowing out the
Yeah, the
Chargers.
tough,
So
tough Chargers team. No,
yeah, I mean, look, they got an easy schedule the rest of the way. I mean, they really should run the table. I mean, they go to Dallas, so it's on the road, but they should beat Dallas, and then they host Carolina and New Orleans. So I mean, they should run the table. I mean, we'll see where they are the last week. Like maybe they're locked in to the division, locked in with seed. They rest guys and they wind up losing. But if they need the games, they should run the table here and be the NFC South winners again, host a playoff game, and have a good chance. Have a decent chance at least to win in the wild card round and advance to the divisional. But you know what though? They'll have like right now they're the 3 seed. I mean, they are going to have a tough wild card game because, they will probably be facing either the Vikings or the Packers. So you're looking at a tough wild card game. So, at least they're home though. I mean, look, they're
for the
home.
favorite team. I don't think the Buccaneers may not be favored, but I feel like they're gonna be a tough out. That's my thing. Like I think they might lose in the first round. I think they probably will. I mean, who knows? They only have Mike Evans. That's their only real option on offense, passing wise. So, they could be an out in the first round, but I feel like they're gonna be a very tough out. They're gonna give a team a fight.
Oh,
So
they're definitely gonna be very tough out. That's why I first said a good chance, but I thought, who they're playing
they don't have
in
that
the
Chris
wild card. I
Godwin
mean, they're
anymore.
gonna get
If they
very
had that,
likely either Minnesota or Green Bay. So they're going to have a tough game, but it is home. And look,
they could beat Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, they could beat Green Bay too.
Yeah.
I'd rather play Minnesota and Green Bay. But look, I mean, the Bucks will be a tough out. They got the experience. They got the quarterback. Like I said, Mike Evans, other pieces they have.
Caden Otten coming in and being that tight end for them, second option, which they lose Chris Godwin, which stinks. I mean, they had Chris Godwin right now. I'm being honest. This would be a weird thing because I might even start hope. I think they could beat the Packers if they have Chris Godwin right now. But this is a team this is a team that always has been a very steady wild card team, and hopefully this is the year. I mean, hopefully this is the year they can take it up because I very much respect Baker Mayfield what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, they've been in the playoffs 5 years in a row. Look, 3 of them they had Tom Brady, but they made it again last year. They won a game in the wild card round, and then they lost to Detroit in the divisional. But they were there. And look, they're going to be back this year. They're going to win this division, NFC South. So credit to them. I mean, they keep winning. They keep taking care of business. They take advantage of being in a weak division, but it is what it is. They take advantage of it, and they're in a good position now.
And they also have a really good team. So I want to talk about one more team. I mean, do we have time to do 2 more teams? Because I want to talk about 2 more. Let's do 2 more teams I have to talk about because there's playoff coming up, and I really want to cover them because it is.
Well, I know you're not talking about the New York teams.
No, definitely not.
Jets
I am talking about.
Woo!
I'm talking about a team that I might talk about a team that beat New York today, but right now I want to talk about a team that barely beat the New Orleans Saints. But this is a team that is, I think, really good, man. I think this is a team I don't really know a lot in the Washington Commanders. I'm going to say Washington Commanders. This is a team that could cause some problems. I don't know where to put them.
Problem for them is they're probably going to be the 7 seed. I mean, are still in the mix for the 6. But if they're the 7, they're going to play either the Eagles or the Lions, and they're not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
I mean,
I think Lions are my
unless they
question.
could catch the Packers and get into the 6th spot, and then they'd be playing either the Rams or the Bucks. So
Good season for them. Very good season for
that's
them.
a solid season for them. It
Yeah,
definitely is. I just
Shane Daniels. You have your quarter. I think a lot of teams you got to have your quarterback, and they have their quarterback. So I think besides that, getting them another weapon, I think Terry McLaurin's awesome. Terry McLaurin's my fantasy player for next year. I think I'm gonna really select him because he's a very good player. Um, Another weapon would be nice. Very, very nice for them because it's a lot of just Terry McLaurin. I mean, you get your weapons, De'Ami Brown, Crowder, like Ertz is getting up there in age. It's always getting up there in age, has been getting up there in age, but they don't really have that receiver outside of McLaurin, which they could definitely spend some money. And I think they have that because they have that kind of renewed confidence. They can spend money because they know they have that guy. I think a lot of teams don't spend money because they feel like they don't have that guy. The Commanders should spend money now because they know they have that guy and they could really go in there and build around him. So I think this is going to be a big time offseason for the Commanders. And maybe they draft the receiver. Maybe they do something like that. Maybe they try to protect him. They have that guy. So that's the point blank period. They have that guy so they can definitely now build around him.
It's
And
been a
they have a
positive
good.
season for them. I mean, they got to make the playoffs. Right now, they have a 1-game lead for that final wild card. They play the Eagles coming up at home. So we talked about it from the Eagles' perspective. Like, it's a game the Eagles should win, but look, it's not a gimme. I mean, they're going to Washington. Washington really needs the game in terms of securing a playoff spot. Eagles are chasing the 1, so the Eagles are going to be motivated. So that'll be an interesting game. I mean, I like the Eagles, but I would not be shocked if Washington won. And look, if Washington wins that game, that goes a long way for them because then they play Atlanta at home. They should take care of that. Then they play the Cowboys. If they need that game at Dallas, they should win that game the last week of the season.
And they want to play Philly or Detroit. So they're
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to be really tough. I mean, if they somehow could get to the 6, I mean, I doubt it. I don't think they're going to catch the Packers. But look, if they could get that 7 spot and then play a competitive game in the first round, I mean, it's going to be really tough no matter which of those 2 teams they play. But hey, I mean, go play a competitive wild card round game, and you look at the season and say it was a successful year for Washington, and they're building something.
I want to talk about, we were gonna. There might be another team we want to talk about. I keep going through, but a team that I want to talk about just beat the New York Giants by 35-14. But that's definitely not why I want to talk about them because who cares if they beat the Giants 35-14? They just need to win. I mean, it would have been a big deal if they didn't win. But yeah, I mean the Baltimore Ravens with and they're a team. I think they're a team that they're a team that's going to definitely compete. But I also think this is the time for Lamar. This is the time for Lamar Jackson. It's gonna have to work sometime. Not been a great playoff player, but I think this is when it's gonna have to turn on. He gets another MVP, or he's up there again for another MVP. Probably gonna get it. You have Derrick Henry. You have your forceful runner. That option there. I mean, that's smash mouth football. That's what you talk about, 100% to a T. Derrick Henry. You have Mark Andrews who's getting there, a veteran who you know where he's going to be on the field. You can trust him a lot. Zay Flowers, a deep threat, can be kind of whatever you want it to be, and you
Well,
have
this week for them is enormous. They're hosting Pittsburgh. They got to win that game. I don't see them going on a run if they have to go on the road. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. Like maybe this is the year. Like they're on the road, you don't expect it, and they make a run to the Super Bowl as a wild card. Like it's happened before, but I mean, you don't want to go into the playoffs in that situation versus winning division, getting at least one home game. So this is huge. Like I really think Baltimore has to show something this week. They have to take care of Pittsburgh at home. They lost close in Pittsburgh 18-16 earlier in the year. So, I mean, they got a chance to win the division still, but they have to. I mean, they're eliminated from the division if they lose against the Steelers coming up on Saturday. That game's actually on Saturday. So they got to win that game. They win that game. The Steelers then host the Chiefs the next week. So Steelers got a tough. Baltimore, they go to Houston for week
Oh,
17 and they
Steelers.
host Cleveland week 18. So, I mean, it's all on the line for the division this week. So, I mean, the Ravens really have to show something this week. I think if they win this game, I'll feel better about them. They go lose this game at home, I write them off. I think if they lose this game, you could write them off. They're not going to make a run. I don't like them to get to the Super Bowl. I think they're another one of those teams. It hasn't happened for them. Like I actually like them better than Buffalo. May sound weird. I just think Buffalo come January, they're not built for it. I think the Ravens are more built for it. I think Lamar's capable of stepping up. Look, you got Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. But again, I mean, this week will tell you so much about Baltimore. Also tell you a lot about the Steelers. But, more of the pressure, I think, is on Baltimore. They're home, and they really got a lot to prove.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, they could win the next three. I mean, Steelers, you have the Texans, and then you have the Browns. So you could win the next three. You could win the final three, and then you end up 12-5. So that is the kind of view they could have. I don't know why there's a bunch of balloons on my screen,
I saw that.
but they could end up 12-5, and that is that. I mean, they could play a team, and I mean, who would they play if they end up 12-5? And that's the question right now.
If they win the division, then they will very likely be the 3 seed. So the Steelers right now are the 3 seed. I don't think they'll catch the Bills. They're not catching the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are 13-1. The Bills are 11-3. So the Ravens, if they win the division, or really very likely whoever wins the AFC North, whether it's the Ravens or Steelers, will be the 3 seed. So right now, the Broncos are the 6 seed. They're 9-5. Chargers are 7. So right now, the Steelers are the 3. They would play the Broncos.
Ravens Chargers or Ravens Broncos would be good. I think that's a very good. I think that's a winnable game for the Ravens. I think it's definitely a chokeable game. They could definitely go out there and choke, and they can lose, and they can lose badly, or they could be a bad lose for the franchise. So I don't. It's a big time game for them.
I mean, it's also possible that you get Ravens Steelers in the wild card round. Either way, whether it's the Steelers or the division winner or the Ravens, are like you could get that 3-6. That's also a possibility.
Yeah, and that's all a possibility for the Ravens. They can have 12-5, or they can play the Broncos. They play the Chargers. So I think the Chargers could definitely bring something come playoff time. I know they don't have J.K. Dobbins anymore. They could definitely bring something come playoff time. So they have Jim Harbaugh. They have Harbaugh, who's gonna run a big time run system. So they're gonna have to stop the run. And
who do you think has the best chance to beat the Chiefs? Like the Chiefs are going to be the number 1 seed. Who do you think has the best chance to beat them?
Do you have to outscore them? What do you think the recipe is to win? Like,
they beat you any way they need to. That's the thing. Like they'll win all different ways. That's what's so tough about them. Like you think, this is the year that somebody's going to get them. Like last year was like, the Chiefs, they're done. Like they're not going
anywhere. I kept saying it last year. I'm like, this is not the year the Chiefs are not done yet. The Chiefs are not done yet. Like the Chiefs weren't done yet last year. I always knew from the start they were just not done yet. I think Mahomes is a generational talent. I think they could do whatever they want with that team. He's going to make that team well. They have Kelsey, have Mahomes, and I think anything else is about fluff for them. And they have a top defense in the league. Everything else is fluff for them. So
I look at the AFC and it's like, who is going to beat them unless you really believe in Buffalo?
If you try to outscore them, then they have Mahomes. If you try to block them, if you try to outscore them, you can't because that defense is lethal. You try to lock them down, they score right on you because they have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they have guys, they have Worthy who can beat you over the top. So,
I mean, I don't think the Bills are going to beat them, but if I had to pick a team that has the best chance to beat them in the AFC, I would say it's the Bills.
I don't know if I'm going to say if it's a team that outscores them. I think the Ravens could, with their blend of Henry and the deep ball with Lamar and Zay Flowers and just a big playability of him. And having more. I think that's a team that could give him because they have a very vast skill set of ways to score. So
Are they going to go into
this is
Kansas
a team
City and
in
beat
game
them?
one that really went close with them, toe to toe, toe to toe. No joke. They actually Isaiah Likely was um, one toe in, one toe out. So from
I
winning
just
that
think it's
game,
different come January. I
yeah,
mean,
I
you're
know.
playing Kansas City on the road, but early in the year, September, it's opening night. I'm not trying to totally minimize that, but I don't think that means much of anything come
Yeah,
playoffs. I just think the Chiefs are going to be a tough out. I think they're that good with Mahomes. I mean, it's Mahomes. Look, I know they got, like you said, Travis Kelsey. Um, Andy Reid is their coach. I think if they're, going to
if they're
be,
there, if they're in the playoffs, I don't count them out. That's the thing with them. I don't count them out. I'm not going to count them out.
and they're going to have home field advantage. So, they're going to be at home in Kansas City for 2 games, so somebody's got to beat them there. And I just don't think anybody is.
I'm gonna guess they're gonna play like a tough. I mean, I guess it's gonna come down to Bills Chiefs or Ravens Chiefs again, and it's gonna be the same thing over and over again. And the Chiefs defense steps up again and contains Lamar, or they go back and forth scoring, and Mahomes just outdoes them. So it's like it's that kind of script again. Not to say everything, not to say the NFL scripted at all, but that's that time of script again where Patrick Mahomes outscores the guys, or they play tough enough defense, and the Chiefs find a way to win. So this Chiefs team, yeah, they can win in many different ways, and they have the generational talent quarterback, which you would think that they have a generational talent quarterback. They can only win one way, and that's by him doing generational talent stuff. Their defense is outstanding, so they don't need that generational talent to really. They can be that generational talent can go down
Honestly,
once
they
here.
do have a good defense, and they play good defense
I mean, I feel like
in the
that.
playoffs. They've shown in the playoffs what their defense can do. Their defense rises to the occasion.
Like I don't
They
have that
just win
same.
in all different ways. Like they just know how to win. They're
I don't have
13
that
and
same feeling about.
1.
Yeah, I don't have that same feeling about the Bills, the Ravens. I don't have that same feeling. I don't.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
like
look, you can't say they have no chance of being picked off.
no, I mean like win like
Or
anyway.
even I wouldn't even say like it's very little chance. Like there's a reasonable chance they could lose. But I think the odds are very much against it. And even last year, they were on the road. Like, first time on the road. They've been home every playoff game with Mahomes. And then they go on the road to Buffalo and Baltimore, and they dominate. So I'm just not picking against them. I thought before the year they'd win, they'd three-peat, they'll find a way. Mahomes is that special. You got the quarterback-coach combination. You have a good defense. You have Kelsey at tight end. They're just winners. So I'm not picking against them. And they're playing for history. I think they're really motivated to be the first team to three-peat in the Super Bowl. Like, that's a huge deal. And, Mahomes trying to chase Brady. He's got 3 rings. Brady's got 7. He's got a long way to go. I just think a guy like Mahomes, like, he's just that guy. He's the it factor, whatever you want to say. I'm just not picking against him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you would pick against them because I've kept saying this is a team that can win many different ways in the playoff time, and they've shown it over and over and over again, and they're inevitable. That's the big word for them. I think they're inevitable. They're gonna beat you some way. And if it's those heroics where they get 13 seconds left on the clock, or they lock you down for an hour,
Yeah.
like they're gonna find a way. So the Chiefs
It's
will
like
end
the
up.
Patriots used to do. They would just
Yeah,
always find ways. So
and maybe Mahomes will have to pull something in the hat. Who knows? That's good for TV. So it's good if he gets 13 seconds left on the clock. Maybe we'll pull something out of the hat, but they can win those type of ways. I think that showed in that OT to bat whole thing, that OT whatever it was with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, showed that they could win that type of way, ridiculous ways with their offense. But
they
you
could
also
win
remember
every
that
way
defense is
imaginable.
what?
They could win every way imaginable. That's what makes them so tough.
Yeah. So it's going to be a tough out for the Bills. Tough out for the. It's going to be a tough sledding for the Bills. Not
And as
tough
much
out,
as I
obviously.
get on the Bills case, I think they have the best chance in the AFC. I look at the rest of the teams. I think I said last week Steelers. I guess I'm down on them because they lost to Philadelphia. I think I did say last week if Jacob was on here, and I didn't just say because he's a Steelers fan, but I said I think the Steelers have a better chance than the Bills do of beating the Chiefs. I don't feel that way anymore. I mean, things change. Look, you got to watch week to week. So after this past week with the Steelers and after this past week with the Bills, I'm going to put the Bills ahead of the Steelers in terms of who has the best chance to beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
All right, Jack. Well, you want to go final thoughts? I mean, you got a final thought, and then I'll give a final thought, and then we'll sign off for today. Another great show. Episode 12, Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final thought here is the AFC is gonna it's gonna be a bloodbath. I feel like that it's just chasing the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs are not that far away from them. It's still you have to chase them. So for everybody else, the Bills, Ravens, it's gonna be a tough out for them.
Yeah, my final thought is.
Are you on the podcast? How much time do you need?
My final thought is I think the Jets should think about bringing Aaron Rodgers back. I was against it for a while. I mean, I came to the point of like, we just got to move on from him. This isn't working. But, the way he played yesterday, him and Devontae Adams, I can't say that I'm totally on board with it, but I'm leaning more and more in that direction of bringing Rodgers back next year and giving another run. He still has the arm talent. The announcer kept saying that over and over yesterday, but it's true. Still has the arm talent. He's moving around better. I still think he has enough to be a good quarterback. Not what he once was, but be a good quarterback in the NFL. So I'm leaning more and more towards bringing him back next year.
Yeah, I think the Jets right now they have nothing else but to run it back because Devontae Adams played another great game. So they had that connection between Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So I think, and they have Garrett Wilson. So I think they just need a better job of kind of using that talent better and kind of spreading it out. But for now, there's a team that's really bad, but I think they could make some steps up in this offseason. They could run it back. I don't think just completely run it back, and then there's gonna be some steps up in the offseason. They're gonna get new coaching and stuff. But I think it's gonna be more of the same for the Jets, and they're gonna try to run it back next season.
Yeah, well, and we'll talk more about them probably next week, right? Go back we didn't do Jets and Giants today, really, so we'll talk about the local teams next week, and really break down what they need to do coming up in the offseason because obviously their seasons are done. So we'll get into that next week.
Okay.
All right, Jack. So everyone, thank you for joining us again. Season 1, Episode 12, Jacked Up and Being Frank. We'll be back next week. A lot to talk about. NFL, getting into Week 16, so a lot of football talk next week. So thanks so much, and we will see you next week.